Hey guys, so I've got a 15-10 game up and against an opponent rated 980. So we're just about the 1000 mark. So I'm going to play the Black Lion against 1d4. And if you want to follow this move order, it's very often very standard. I don't know if he's going to want to move his own pawn in front of his bishop now. I prefer it when we don't exchange pawns in the middle. So there we go. Okay, straightforward now. Got to be aware of this idea. So I think I'm going to just push h6 first to prevent the knight coming in here. Normally that comes later. And next is c6 and then queen to c7. And we'll see how we go. Hopefully we're going to get a nice attack down the kingside. That's the whole idea of the Black Lion. So next, queen to there, pawn to there, and then this knight comes round on a little journey up to f4, where hopefully he'll get swapped off by the dark squared bishop. That normally opens things up quite nicely. We'll see how we get on. Opponent's having a good think. He's just dipped under 15 minutes. If he pushes here, I can always push and just try and lock down the pawns on the queen side. There is always some risk of counterplay down this side of the board if your opponent is aware. Okay, I'm just going to push my queen to c7. I don't think he's going to take necessarily. If he does, I can just recapture the pawn and we should be alright. So this is my intention now. There, and bring the knight round. Yeah. One of the good things about having an opening like this already lined up is that you can gain some time, particularly useful in 3, 5, 10 minute games. You can find that your opponent's used a couple of minutes and you've used 15 seconds if you know what your moves are, and as long as you just take one breath, you know, to check that you're not doing anything stupid or that your opponent hasn't got a surprise in store for you. That's one of the great things about this move. I mean, look how many about this opening. There was so many moves in, and even my next 3 moves I've got pre-planned. Right, so it's a nice little system we've got going on. Don't see any huge risks down here. I mean, we're blocked off here. I could, if I want to, push c5, but then that opens up this possibility. I could even push a6 at some point, but let's carry on with the knight. See how we do. So if the knight now gets to here, it's going to be hitting that queen. So quite likely that white will want to exchange, and then that opens up the f-file for my rook. This is the idea. It is definitely an aggressive kind of opening, this, and sharp. Still thinking a6 at some point might make sense, just prevent any ideas of the bishop or the knight coming to b5. It's good that he's taking this time to think. So I'm not concerned about the bishop coming there or there or there or there, really. So that dark squared bishop doesn't really have a lot to do, even considering the fact that, there we go. Ooh, interesting. Alright, let's carry on. I think that's probably a good thing for me. It gives me a target for this light squared bishop. So let's say my knight does come in, takes, rook to g7, if you can visualize that, then I've potentially got bishop takes h3, and g2 can't recapture because it'll be pinned by my rook. I might have said. Sometimes get rooks and bishops muddled up in my brain. It's just a miswire faulty connection somewhere. And as a kid as well, I used to get white and yellow mixed up a lot. It's a bit odd. So down to 12.5 minutes now on his clock. Hopefully I will cause him further problems when this knight comes in here. We'll see if we can't produce a blistering attack up the king side of the board, which is what we like. I like to attack up the king side. That's why I like the Grand Prix attack against the Sicilian as well. It's all good. And it's quite bold to leave your... And it's quite a bold move to leave your king uncastled in the middle of the board. But in this case, it's just as well off here with the bishops and stuff around it than it is, say, over here. We don't really want it. We don't want to invite white to start attacking down the queen side. You can actually see every single move that I've made so far is the standard system opening. Alright, this is interesting. Okay, so he's preventing the knight from going there, but at the same time he's undefended his own pawn with that move. So I can grab that, hassle the rook. The rook's almost certain just to go to e1, and then I might even bring this knight in. Let's see. Is there any benefit to that? I can attack that knight first of all. Let's do that, cause him an issue. And now I think I want the h-pawn to start making some progress up the board. I still don't see any reason to castle on this side unless I need to bring that rook into the attack. We'll see. So knight can't capture there, can't go there. It could go to here, in which case I might just drop back to d7. No, in fact it can't because it's pinned. If the knight moves, I'm going to capture that rook. So what's he going to do? Queen back? King up? They're the only possibilities I see, really. Neither's very attractive. So I think if the queen goes there, I might just leave that queen pinned. I think that might be preferable to actually just exchanging the knight for the queen. I think this bishop's worth more to me alive, if that makes sense. But I'm thinking, yeah, a5, a4 now. Let's try and clear away some of this pawn debris that's around there. Another option is even king to d7 to swing the rook across. Okay, so he's gone for the queen, and okay, I can push h5. It does undefend this pawn. I think it's a good idea. The knight's not going to capture that and drop the queen, so let's keep the pressure up, let's keep going. Now if I push h4, if he does take, I can recapture with a knight, then I've got two attackers on that pinned knight. And white is going to be suffering. Oh, okay, he's gone in for the loose pawn. I didn't spot that one. Right, what do we have here? I think so. I'm definitely considering h4. If pawn takes, that's fine for me. If bishop takes, I'll capture, because I've got knight and rook looking on there. So if pawn takes, I'll grab with the knight. If bishop takes, I'll probably grab with a knight as well. And double up the pressure on here. Because then the risk is obviously bishop takes knight, and we've got a queen and a rook in line. So I was actually up a pawn because of this him undefending the h3 pawn, which is my exactly the pawn. You know, these 2 pawns, H and G, are the ones that you want to get out of the way. So he's really given me a gift there. He's down to 9.5 minutes, and I'm still on 15. I've got all my time left because of the increment. Could pop the queen across to d7 if needed to add another defender to that bishop, but I don't think it's necessary. Okay, so that's what we said we were going to do. Let's just proceed with the plan. Alright, and that's an error. He didn't need to do that. Okay, so basically we've now traded 2 minor pieces for a queen, so I'm 3 material points in front right now. And when you have a sequence of captures, a series of captures like this, it's really important to stop and take stock. Look at the entire board. I think something that's attractive is the idea of queen to g4 with a fork on the king and the bishop. I think that would be a good idea. Another possibility is to castle, get a rook onto there, or I could just simply play rook h to g8, pinning the bishop. Let's swing, see if we can swing the queen in now. Whatever white does now, unless the king moves, I think that's a really good move. It's nice and aggressive. Yeah, if I can take the bishop and then I take the knight, it could even be checkmate very, very quickly. So I think it's interesting there where we had that exchange that white recaptured in like a second. Didn't even stop to think. And the number of times I've had to learn this lesson, which is the sanity check. You move the piece, hold it, and then stop and picture the board. Look at the whole board and say, is there anything really stupid about this move? Is this move a mistake? And then if it is, you've got the chance to do something about it. So yeah, it's a really nice little opening, this, the Black Lion. I do recommend you look into it. You can literally copy the first like 11 or so moves that I've made in this game. Just write them down, just remember them. And if you like playing blitz, then it's a good way to respond to d4. You can use it against e4 as well, in theory. It's based on the Pirc defense with that 1 d6. And very often you'll find yourself facing a d4 and an e4 pawn both together. So it can work both ways. Right, so he's down to 8 minutes. He's got some thinking to do. I may even consider castling at some point now, because his attack is very much weakened. Alright, so he's gone for moving the king. And my first instinct is queen h3 check. If he goes here, then queen h1 would be mate. So in fact I think his only move, he's got knight there, but then I go down here as well and it's mate. Let's see what happens. I think the correct move is actually king to g1, but then I get to come back here and grab the bishop anyway. So he's he's really falling apart now. Alright, you comfy there? Dog's jumped onto the squeaky chair. Okay, now I think that's checkmate. No, apparently not. Why isn't it mate? Oh, he can go here. He has an escape. Alright, now what are we going to do? I'm thinking that knight to there with check will probably force knight to take, knight to take. Then if we swap off bishops, this knight could fall. Yeah, I'm going to grab... No, I'm not going to grab that knight at all. That was actually an error. I'm going to grab that bishop with check. So I'm still slightly up. Sorry about the... Wait, come on, you down. Go on, it's too squeaky there. Go away. Okay, knight's captured. Now I can't go here because of the rook. I can grab this knight, and that's now... Yeah, I'm slightly in front material-wise, but I am attacking 2 pieces. So I've got the bishop there is hanging, and the knight there is hanging. Knight capture would come with check as well. And now I think that castling long definitely makes sense. Brings my other rook into the attack. I am significantly ahead. I think I blundered a piece in that exchange because I failed to spot that the rook was guarding that square, but should still be fine. This is also attractive. Capture the bishop and then start to gobble up some of these pawns. Alright, okay, good move. So he's defended both pieces. So he's interposed the knight, interrupting the attack on the bishop, and the knight itself is actually defended there. So if I come back here with check, then the king can't retreat along that same diagonal, so he's going to have to go to one of these squares, which I think is not a bad idea. So he's either going to have to come into the board, or he's going to go on the back rank, in which case I've got ideas of attacking with the rook, maybe swap off some rooks, but I think castling is just a sensible move, maybe on the next turn. We'll see where he goes. Have to remember this pawn is actually hanging, so I don't really want to move my queen off the 6th rank quite yet. So castling will actually help solve that problem, because it will put the rook on d8 to defend the pawn. Opponent's down under 7 minutes now. He can't check because of the queen there. He doesn't have... Really, this bishop again has still got problems with the light squared pawns. Okay, he's gone onto the back rank. I'm just going to go ahead and castle. The knight can't progress to any of these squares. The bishop can't progress to these. So I'm thinking, what's undefended? The bishop, not that pawn, and that pawn currently undefended. But I think the simple approach now is... Hello. He's got 2 attackers now on there, but I have 2 defenders, so that's alright. He might throw in a cheap check, but there's little value in it. So what can we attack? I think I definitely want to drop a rook onto the back rank and swap off one of these rooks. It'll make a big difference. And then I get 3 defenders on d6, thanks to my opponent's cheap check. c5 would kind of trap the bishop as well. Can only go to these 3 squares. I have to protect my queen, of course. If I lose my queen, I'm down 2 minor pieces. So I've got to be pretty careful with that. So I've got to do my own sanity checks before I move. 5.5 minutes now. I think this is an unrated game, so... Ooh. Now I can just grab that pawn. And grab the pawn. Then the rook drops to there. Can't see any problems. He hasn't got a good check. He does have a couple of checks. I mean, no, he doesn't actually. The knight can't check my king because they're on opposite coloured squares. Okay, I can throw this in. It's an intermediate move, in-between move, and I could also have just captured the knight as well. So if the king moves to here, which yeah, he's got no choice really. He can interpose the rook, but then that loses the rook. So the king's going to come here. I can grab the knight, yes. And the king's only got 1 square now. So a beginner might think, oh, I'll just swap off rooks, but you see what I can do now is I can go there with the queen, force the king away, and then I can grab the rook, because I've got 2 attackers on it, and grab the rook without losing my own rook at the same time. So what squares has he got? He's got 2 to move to, and I think that's... Oh, he's got 1 square now. He has to move there. And I can move here. He has to move to one of these squares in order to defend the rook. I think I have to bring my other rook into the game now. Yeah, let's bring the rook in. I don't want to do that maybe straight away because that pawn's hanging, so I can't move there. I'm gonna get this pawn to safety maybe. Check there and then move the pawn up. Got to be careful on the light squares. There is a sniper lurking there. It's always tempting when you are significantly in command of a game. Very tempting to try and rush the finish. So it's a really good discipline, I think, to take your time and to learn the, even though I've only really used 18 seconds off my clock because of the increment, it doesn't matter, take as long as you need to get the job done. He's got 2 moves. I could then even bring my rook here with the idea of putting this one in between, and that would be checkmate. So the king cannot move. Can't move to any of these squares. Can only move. His only move is actually forward. So then I think that is a nice checkmate. A little triple rank checkmate. Okay, so there you go. That's a useful little game. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've learned a couple of things. Try out the Black Lion. You might enjoy it.